Well, it's now time we go straight to the papers and also see what they seem to have on the front page. And for review today, rather, we have 4 papers. We have the Vanguard, The Nation is here, the Punch, and the Guardian will also be guiding us through. But you always do know I enjoy starting with the Punch, and the Punch will go then. And on the Punch newspaper this morning, we seem to have a lot. States intensify action against, or rather, as 232 die and 120,000 displaced. And we're talking about no other issue but the flood disaster. It looks as if this year, well, a whole lot of high rain seem to be. And what right after that says NEMA lists Niger, Adamawa, Lagos among what his states in 2025 as farmland and homes are highly affected and they are destroyed. But anyway, I'll just implore you to take more of that sad story on page 2. And I remember also on Dialogue, we've really looked at all of this, trying to really prepare the minds of many Nigerians and also state government, or rather government at all levels, about the need to do more as it concerns the flood disaster. But anyway, I'll just implore you to read more of that story on page 2. Let's see if we take some other leading stories, especially at the topmost side of the Punch this morning. And one that seems to be at the very top is Forex Reserve hits $42 billion United States dollar, highest in 6 years. No surprise. And now this very administration will accredit that to all their reforms. But I'll just implore you to read more of that story on page 23. Olubadan, Ladoja coronation rites begin with prayers. Well, anyway, everything started with prayers and will definitely end with it. But I'll just implore you to take more of that story on page 12 of the Punch newspaper. Let's see if we can get other stories just at the sidemass of the Punch. Fubara consults Tinubu on river peace sustenance, which will be a very needed one. And I'll tell you to still return to page 12 because that has all of that story. And Nigerian Bureau of Statistics announced 4.23% economic growth. Labor differs. And all of that disagreement you can get on page 23 of the Punch. But what's more of an excitement, well, anyways, they won it itself. I'm talking about Dolphins. And well, we're talking about basketball. Is the picture of the day, and funny enough, a story you can get on page 30. Dolphins dedicate Zenny title win to the late Abo Daring. And you could understand why they are excited about her. Well, anyway, so truly rest in peace. But anyway, they've dedicated that win. And the prize money of almost 7.5 million naira is going to Dolphins. And indeed, a big congratulations to them coming from here. And well, anyway, that's the much you can take from the Punch newspaper this morning.
Yeah, let's see what the Nation has for us this morning. The lead story, Fubara, I have made peace with Wiki. Sounds like a very interesting story. Well, that's on page 2 of the paper. Let's go to the top mass. A house pushes for state police council, autonomy, and others. That's on page 3 of the paper. Oil, agri industries drive GDP's a 4.23% growth. That's on page 2. El Rufai's life president's claim absurd, says presidency. That's on page 2 of the Nation. A court fixes Monday to hear case on withheld Osun Council funds. Well, finally, because this whole issue has been lingering for long.
And will linger more, knowing that the court is still in court.
Yeah, it's still in court, and this is Nigeria. Yeah. Well, that's on page 5 of the paper. All right, so the picture of the day, still that of the commissioning of the Sultan Bello mosques in Kaduna State. So this is just like a goodwill message to His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Well, that's all we're taking this morning on The Nation. Let's see what the Guardian has for us. The lead story, 24 states backpedal on electricity decentralization over tariff and debt risks. Well, that's on page 6 of the paper. At the topmast, Fubara declares peace with Wike after meeting Tinubu. Well, I think we've been having this on all the dailies. Yeah. Well, that's on page 3 of the paper. Nigeria's economy posts a 4.23% growth in the second quarter, outperforms projections. That's on page 3 of the paper. Nigerian's democracy faces collapse without INEC reforms, Bugaje warns. That's on page 3 of the paper. Let's see what we have at the side mass. Enroll children in schools or serve jail term.
Wow.
Gombe government tells parents. I think this is a good one coming from Gombe State. Well, you can read more of that story on page 29 of the Guardian newspaper. Gunmen kill Benue APC chieftain, abduct district head in Plateau. That sad story is on page 30 of the paper. Right at the bottom mass, constitution alteration. Tinubu, Akpabio, Abbas declare support for women's reserved seats bill. That's on page 6 of the paper. Tension in Edo local government as acting chairman receive impeachment notices. Wow. Well, that's on page 29 of the paper. Rivers, stakeholders call for probe of IBA 6 months administration. That's on page 29. We discussed this yesterday. Well, still on the dailies. And you can have more of that on page 29. Natasha's trial stalls as women groups petition United Nations. That's on page 30 of the paper. The picture of the day, but we're having a chat today. Electricity market update. This is still illustrating the lead story. 24 states backpedal on electricity decentralization over a tariff debt risks. Well, that's all we're taking this morning on The Guardian. Up next is The Vanguard.
Well, yes, The Vanguard will be the next paper for us to quickly look at. And we'll seem to have just few headlines. But the major one that seems to be on page 5 is procurement. Federal government rejects U.S. report alleging lack of transparency, and says the Attorney General of the Federation fails to provide substantive report on budget execution. Also says report not true, and these are credited to the federal government. Excuse me. Why we cannot return to regionalizing, and you can really get that from Tanko Yekase, and page 14 seems to have all that story. And the one that's taking the topmost side of the Vanguard this morning, and one that's, well, anyway, is getting a whole lot of reactions already. And we're talking about FEC and NUPRC, and recovers 496,000 and revenue shortage despite a 3% rise in monthly remittance. It's a major one there, and it's already getting a whole lot of reactions from concerned Nigerians. But I'll just tell you to read up that story also on the front page of the Vanguard. But the picture of the day, and with more of appreciation and goodwill message, going to no other but President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as he in every way inaugurated the Sultan Bello Mosque in Kaduna, and that played out on Friday, the 19th day of September 2025. Well, anyway, that's the much you can take from the dailies, and well, like we'll always say, if you find any of them really interesting, we'll just implore you to go grab a copy of the papers and read through, and you just be giving yourself a need to know more and be informed on major happenings in the country at the moment. But while talking about major happenings in the country, it's also right to just look at some of the major critical ones. And one that is even getting a whole lot of Nigerians really concerned is the issue of education. No surprise that the Gombe state government seem to be taking or wanting to with the big stick, especially as it concerns parents that deny their children that basic fundamental right, and that is the issue of having them enrolled in schools. And I'm really excited that the Gombe state government seems to be doing more as it concerns that, and will be taking or having punitive measures against these parents that fail to. Well, Mercy, our biggest problem, we have almost 10.56 million out of school children as it stands. A large proportion of them is always in the northeast and northwest. We feel in the north central. But taking that audacious, bold move by the Gombe state government, do you see this helping not just only to reduce the number of out-of-school children, but also changing the mindset of those persons that are uneducated and indeed roaming the streets in the north?
Yeah, I think this is a good one coming from the governor of Gombe State. I think during the time of Oshomole in Edo State,
Yes.
they actually declared something like this, that
similar.
during school hours,
hours.
any students caught roaming the streets or even hawking gets arrested, and the parents have to dance to the tune of the justice. So I think it's a good one coming from the Gombe State government. It will help curb all of this illiteracy, especially in the northern part of the country. And I really wish other states would really emulate this governor, because it's a right thing to do. Education, they say, is the key, and education is still the key. So it's a really nice thing coming from the Gombe State.
Well, anyway, we just really need to applaud you. Like she said, education is the bedrock for any national development, and having those children educated will reduce the incidence of insecurity on account of these persons being used for evil purposes rather than them being educated. But another major one that seems to also be on the screen on the front page of the Dailies this morning is the issue of, well, we looked a bit about it yesterday. I was talking about the call for more to be done as it concerns the 6 months tenure of the former sole administrator of Rivers State. But the cheering one that we are excited to talk, we'll leave that aside, no, we talked about it yesterday, is the recent call, or rather talk of Fubara saying, well, definitely peace has finally returned. We heard all of that coming from Nyesom Wike, the FCT minister, some couple of days back, but everybody was waiting to also hear from Fubara saying, well, yes, for now and forever, like he said yesterday, peace has finally returned, and there's every need to thank Mr. President for doing so much.
I think I love this piece. It's a good one. I love the piece because if there's no peace between these two persons, knowing the fact that there are those major political actors in Rivers State, you just, like, the whole environment will be tensed because you don't know what else to expect. But the fact that they're coming out, and I really hope it's a real peace and not just the audio form of peace. So I really hope it's a real peace, and this is what everybody wants. We really want this peace in Rivers State, and I am happy that the peace is coming. But still talking about peace, you wanted to skip that topic of Ibas. But the truth is, I still said this thing yesterday. I don't know why he's scared about the whole thing. He said that since he wasn't put in that position by the assembly, they have no right to probe him. Like, if you don't have any issues, if you don't have any skeleton in your cupboard, I don't see why it's a big deal.
Well, anyway, talking about a big deal, we on our viewpoint, you know, we were also opportune to get a glimpse of from his aide, and all the aide is saying, he feels that it will be a kind of witch hunt against his principal, knowing that some of the House of Assembly members might not really have enjoyed his term as being sole administrator, and they might just go out witch hunting and claim that white elephant projects were being executed when they were not. So that's a glimpse of what he feels, and that's why he feels his principal, I'm talking about Ibas, is not really ready for such probe, knowing that he was never in any way given the mandate by the House of Assembly members, but rather, Mr. President, under Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, giving President Tinubu all that right to indeed declare a state of emergency, and feel he owes every explanation to Mr. President rather than the House of Assembly.
Okay, so I think at this point the president should intervene, since he's not willing, because it's not right that you oversee this whole place for 6 months and you're unable to just come out and tell us how you manage the public funds, how you manage the resources and the revenue that came at that point.
But Bessie, do you know how I feel Mr. President will not want to do anything? Because he's not ready for another issue that concerns Rivers. So he had a turbulent one, trying to put Wike and Fubara to see eye to eye. Now, talking about assembly and who he kept there for 6 months, I doubt if Mr.
But
President
if he doesn't, this whole issue is not coming to an end anytime soon.
So
it's the earlier the better. It should just intervene, call Ibas, and I don't know, just try to see, just tell him to just explain how, if you don't have issues with how you manage the public funds, I don't see any reason why you should be scared, because at this point it's smelling, should I use the word smelling, like fear. I feel fear. I don't know why you should be scared. If you did not siphon or you did not misappropriate the public funds, you should be able to just come out and declare it. It doesn't really matter. Witch hunting or not, have you seen cases where people try to witch hunt you, but they don't get anything? If you don't have any skeleton in your cupboard, you won't be scared of witch hunting. You won't be scared of witch hunting because do your worst. What can you find? Find anything. Find anything. I think Peter Obi came out one time to say you should try. You won't see anything in his cupboard. So if you don't have anything, keep witch hunting. They won't find anything. That's what I feel about this case.
Well, anyway, Mr. Ibas, Mercy is telling you if you have nothing in your cupboard, well, let the House of Assembly members come into the room and look deeply into your cupboard. But anyway, before looking at all of that, let's look at another major one. There's also a screamer on the front page of most of the dailies, and the issue of NIMET coming out to say, well, we might really have flood in some major states, and they made mention of Adamawa, Niger State, and most certainly Lagos, that is almost having 12 months rain in that very great city. Well, anyway, the flood alert seems to also be a major one, and will just really employ many of the state governors to do the needful. It's always painful that we need to wait for disaster. We've already had 232 persons killed on account of flood this year, and we have 121,000 already displaced. Are we ever ready in dealing with natural disaster? And if we plan on time, will it not avert most of these deaths orchestrated with the issue of flooding?
Yes, talking about flooding, I saw this very disturbing video, I think last week in Edo State, I think in Ekpoma, Edo State. Yes, and there was this bike man that was carried by this flood, and later on we saw him dead. This is really a really sad one, and if there's proper drainage system and all of this, I'm sure this whole thing will not happen in the first place. Because when you see the drainage, and then in as much as we're calling the government, I feel we as persons really need to do better. Because when you dump refuse and all of that in the drainage, you don't expect water to go freely. And once water is not able to move, this brings about a flood and the rest. So we as a people, we need to do better. In as much as we're calling on the government to do something about this whole flood, we need to do better. We need to keep our environment clean. Dispose your refuse properly. You don't dump them anywhere and cause this flood, because this whole thing might end up taking more lives, and you do not, in as much as you feel you might not be part of it, but somebody close to you, and these are human beings dying in all of this. So we really need to do better as the people.
Well, yeah, talking about doing better. I've seen situations where there's heavy downpour, the rains will be going, people will come out of their house and throw their refuge inside, thinking that is the best way to dispose of their refuge. It is quite appalling. And just like what Mercy have said, it is now time we take responsibility in our actions or inactions as in dealing with the issue of flooding. We should not always put or hinge everything on the government at all levels, be it federal, state, or local government, to do the needful when we fail on our own as citizens to do the needful.